What up, Screen Fiends? I'm GB, and welcome to Screen Headz TV Thrones Thursday, where we like to discuss all the wonderful things in the world of Game of Thrones. Alright, so today I'm going to give part 2 of my overall Game of Thrones predictions. In the last video, the part 1, which if you haven't watched, you should go check that out. I just talked about what I thought the overall story arc was going to be. So if you haven't watched that, definitely go check that out. We're not going to talk about that here. In this video, we're going to do overall predictions, but on a more character by character level. Now, what do I mean by that is what we don't realize, and or at least what I just came to realize, is that all along they've been grooming us by, in where certain characters are headed, by doing two things. One, they were introducing us to the old version of that character, basically who that character would become. I don't mean exactly who they'd become, but, an archetype or a position of who they were going to become in the future. So just to give you an example, you have Jon has slowly been being groomed to be the leader that Ned was, or even a greater leader than Ned was. But see, what they did was, very subtly, was they gave us Ned, who we all thought was the main character, and they make us understand Ned and know who Ned is by the end of the first season. And even after his death, we learn more about Ned in respect to who he was as a person and how other people viewed him, most importantly, right? So, and what we failed to really realize, or what I did anyway, is that Jon's journey, all first 6 seasons, were all preparing him to become the next Ned Stark, in a way. And this goes for many other characters. I mean, almost all of the young characters, I can see an older version of them in the show that either dies or doesn't, just, is getting older. So eventually they're obviously not going to be in that position. And then I see the young people who will replace those people one day. So that's my first example would be Jon and Ned, right? So even though they don't have the same journey, it's a similar journey, and everything was preparing Jon to be the leader of not only the North, but possibly, the Seven Kingdoms. I don't know. Dany doesn't strike me to be someone who would want to share the throne, you know what I mean? And have a king and queen. She looks like she wants to be the ruler, but that's not how it's really done. And, people are people. You fall in love. You meet someone who just does it for you, or has the right name or the right lineage, So let's switch over to Dany now. Now, Dany, they've been grooming us for her to be a tough, hard-nosed queen. Now, yes, similar to Cersei, I would say very similar to Cersei, even in regards where sometimes Dany lets her emotions get control of her, but she usually is able to come to, a reasonable state of mind and not go absolutely nuts, right? So not exactly Cersei, just like Jon, not exactly Ned, but to be a woman of power who kind of covets power, right? Who believes in her lineage and has much love for her lineage and her bloodline, just like Cersei, right? So Dany and Cersei are more similar than we realize. I just think that Dany is the less crazy of the two and the less evil of the two, where Cersei is really a bad person, and I don't think Dany is. All right, now let's go back to the Starks, right? And we have Arya, one of my favorite characters, okay? And she has not only been being groomed to be a great soldier, but a great killer and a great assassin and a person of legend. More important than any of that other stuff is a person of legend right? It's Nymeria, who she named her our wolf after. It's someone from history who's done something so remarkable, or just becomes the type of person of legend. And I believe that Arya will be that. She will be this mysterious character in history that accomplishes great things under circumstances that most of us would crumble behind, right? So like, I wouldn't really compare her to any one person as much as I would compare her to the stories we hear around, Westeros and beyond, of great people doing like miraculous things. And that's because if you look at Arya's story from the beginning, everyone she's been trained under is like the greatest. They're like the best. She's also surrounded by all these stories. And I definitely feel that she's headed down, or she's been on a road where she's been slowly accomplishing great things, even if they're quiet in the dark that not a lot of people know about. I think eventually they will be tales that everyone will tell around campfires. All right, so and then we have, let's see, who should I? Oh, let's go to Sam. Right? Okay, so Sam obviously is going to be a great maester. So once again, you don't have to take any one maester. You could kind of just take them all. Maester Aegon, or I always forget his name. The dude that Cersei's always bitch slapping around with the beard. Tysell, right? Grand Maester Tysell? I think so. But yeah, like, any number of maesters. So Sam, I think, is going to become a vital role to all this. Now, remember in the beginning, Sam was, a punk. He was useless. He even felt useless. Everyone said he was useless. His father sent him away because he was useless, right? So he's going to become one of the most important characters in the greater war. Not necessarily the war for King's Landing or for Westeros, but the great war against the White Walkers. And I believe he's going to, through him, we are going to learn more about them, their weaknesses. We're going to learn, I think, how to make dragon glass or Valyrian steel. Now, he may get this knowledge from someone else or just from books, whatever, but Sam is going to be the character we identify with that is becoming one of these maesters, these grand maesters. Again, probably someone of history. All of these characters will be people of history, but I think Arya will be like a legend. I know I'm jumping around, but Sam is going to be, I think, very, very, very integral in this whole entire story and what's going on. But then again, we see the tracks being laid all along, and Sam slowly learning courage, right, to go out in the open and all that, and then going against the White Walkers and learning a little bit about them, and plus his love for books and his love for knowledge his whole life. It's been on this journey to being a Grand Maester or whatever. So I think that's also fantastic. Now let's move to Sansa. This one is tricky, Sansa, because she's a good person, but she's been learning from all the bad people. Now, do I think that means she's going to grow up to be bad? I think it's possible. I do. All of these characters cannot grow up to be good guys, right? And beauty's in the eye, So Arya can be considered a bad guy or a bad person from a different point of view. You know what I mean? But Sansa's been learning from people like Cersei, from people like Littlefinger. You know what I mean? So she's been learning how to be this. I'm not going to say necessarily a political force, because women don't have that much political power in this world, at least not of yet. But I'm sure if Dany took the throne, there would be more of a women's liberation in Westeros. And then we could see Sansa take on the Lord of Winterfell. And maybe that's what it is. Because Sansa has obviously been being groomed for the Game of Thrones, the political game. For a position where she's in power, not necessarily the queen, but a position of prominence, like the Lord of Winterfell. So I can see if they go the route of Jon being king, which I think they're gonna. Look, a song of ice and fire, it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense. He's ice, she's fire. Even if he's Targaryen, he's still ice. He was raised in the north. He spends almost his whole story in the north, right? And his mother, even if it's all true, which I'm sure it is, right? But, let's just assume it's not, or it could be, or could not be, right? So, he's obviously still ice, because his mother, whatever theory is true, is still of ice, right? So, and you can also take it as far as, the dragons versus White Walkers, that, the Song of Ice and Fire. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it means that too. George R.R. Martin, though his writing is very wordy for me, I know it's writing, it's supposed to be wordy, I sound like an idiot, right? But it's a lot of pages, and, he's very Stephen King-y in explaining small, minute details that a lot of the times may not be consequential. Most of the time don't seem consequential, but some of the time are big in the grand scheme of things. So, so I think that Jon will take the crown eventually, with Dany though, and Sansa will be in charge of Winterfell, because Bran's story, to me, this is who I'm getting to now. Good segue, right? So Bran has obviously been being groomed this whole time to be a mythical, well, maybe not as a, the whole time, because he's always had those dreams. He's always been a warg. So yeah, the whole time he's been being groomed to be this mystical, magical leader of sorts, this grand sorcerer of sorts, the next three-eyed raven. So that would be the person you compare Bran to, right? I had a theory at one point where I thought Bran and the three-eyed raven were the same person traveling through time, and even Bran the Builder was all the same, and all three of them were connected. I'm starting to think that they're not going that direction, and that may be a little too convoluted, but they're definitely not going that direction in season 7, and that's kind of what I'm keeping this to, is season 7, because this is the season where I think all of this stuff is going to become apparent to us, that these people are groomed to take the places of these elder people that we've been following the whole season as well. And we're also being groomed as an audience to be able to accept these people in the roles that they're going to fill, in the end of the season, or, that they're setting up for post-season or whatever, right? So I'm really excited about that. So where I think, that's definitely where they've been grooming it, Bran, with that. I do partly think that he still may be Bran the Builder, and that's where the future of his story is going to go, is back in time to start all of this, to eventually be the one to mess it up, because him crossing the wall ain't going to be good, because he got touched. And not in that way that we all think touched. He got touched, by the Night King, and magic seems to be wherever he goes, that magic is failing, or at least the Night King can cross that magic now, and that can't be good for the wall. And I'm really excited, but I don't think any of that's coming till the very end of this season, or till next season. This season is going to be focused, in my opinion, on the War of Men, and which is going to lead us up perfectly to the next season, where it's going to be having to get men to reunite and join forces against a greater evil. But I'll do that. That'll be part 3, I think, in this. So yeah, that's basically all I'm going to go with it is, we've been seeing these characters. You can even go to the older characters. Before I close, let me just say this. You can even go to some of the characters who aren't super young and see how their story is going to come full circle. Jaime, he's the Kingslayer, and I believe he's going to be the Queenslayer by the end of this season. The end of season 7, I believe Jaime is going to kill Cersei. That's also for another video. I'll get into depth with that. But we see the circle and how he's been being groomed for that. And we have an audience seeing their relationship and how it was to where it's deteriorated to now, and how it's changed so much. We're going to, they've been grooming us for that to happen. I believe the same thing with the Hound. Will die a hero, most likely saving Arya. who's possibly trying to kill Cersei. I think that would be awesome. That's also for another video I'll get into depth with. And he'll probably go up against his brother because they've been setting up not only that rivalry, okay, but we've never really seen them, you know, go at it a little bit in season 1, I believe. You know, so they kind of were setting us up for that. And then along the way, they've shown us how each character not only evolved and changed, but how they are talented with the steel, right? And how they would be a good match. And everyone's clamoring to see that. And they haven't bogged us down with tons of them going at it versus each other. So I think that's perfect. So they've been grooming us for that, you know? So this all this stuff they've been grooming us to. And I'm just now seeing that. It's crazy. Maybe all of you have been seeing it all along. Sound off down below. Let me know if you've been seeing that all along. If I'm the one that's been blind the whole time. Or if you're like me and you just now been really noticing that we've been being set up for season 7 and 8 the whole time. Everything that's been happening has been leading us to these 2 seasons. And we're going to end with this season with the War of Man and the next season with the Great War versus the White Walkers. Yep, so let me know what you think about this video also. And what maybe some of your predictions are, some of your ideas, what you think is going to happen. Yeah, and that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. You know, sorry so long. I was trying to cut it down, but you know me. I get to rambling. But thanks for watching. It's always appreciated. And you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time.